Good morning and welcome to Crimes with Cole. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? How is everyone? I hope you all are having an amazing day today. So I wanted to talk to you about Rennie Pratt and Michael Purcella. Rennie Pratt had shot Michael, her boyfriend, on her birthday. And it wasn't a matter of if she shot him, but did she mean to? We're about to find out. So Rennie Pratt was a 28-year-old mother of 3. She was a hairdresser. She had actually worked in a barber shop. And her 3 young children were from a previous relationship with a man named Garcia. Michael had grown up in the Oakland area. He had gone to school and graduated, and he had gotten into law school. He graduated from the Golden Gate University School of Law. He was admitted to state bar in March of 2006. He had later went on to work for a law firm, but was unfortunately laid off due to economic reasons. So he did work part-time for this law firm, and he would go to court, show up, fill in on some cases if they needed assistance. And by 2007, he had gone off and bought himself a little 1-bedroom, 1-bath cottage in the Oakland area. Rennie and Michael started dating in the summer of 2008. And by October of 2008, they had decided that it was time to take the relationship to the next level. It was time to move in. So Rennie had packed up her stuff and she moved in to Michael's little 1-bedroom cottage with him. The honeymoon stage quickly faded. By December of that year, Rennie had claimed that Michael had hit her because she didn't want to attend a wedding that he was invited to. She had rung the police after he had put his hands on her, but she was in fear that Michael would get in trouble, that he would lose his license as a lawyer. And so she didn't speak of any sort of physical violence when the police arrived. And it only got worse from there. By January of 2009, the neighbors said that they could hear the couple fighting constantly. They fought and bickered over everything. Now, Michael's neighbors had lived 12 feet in front of him. The cottages were very close to each other. So their back window was 12 feet from Michael's front door. It was very close. Oh, they could hear everything, I'm sure. Everything. And they did. They heard every fight, every argument that Michael and Rennie had, which was constantly. By February of 2009, this is 4 months after Rennie has moved in. 4 months. Michael and Rennie had gone over to Michael's parents' house to have family dinner. However, the couple had gotten into a verbal argument. Rennie went outside to cool off. She sat in her car. Michael stormed out after her, filled with rage. Came out to the car, slammed his fist on the car hood, denting it. Michael's mother would later testify that Michael indeed came out, hitting Rennie's car, leaving a dent. In March of 2009, Rennie and Michael had gotten into a fight. So Michael calls his parents over, and they come over, and what they attest to in court is that when they had showed up at the cottage, Rennie was standing on the front porch, drinking and smoking. When they had followed her into the house, she led them to the kitchen where she was cooking soup on the stove. And the flames from the stove were so high it made the parents uncomfortable. Michael's mother had told Rennie that she needed to leave, that Michael wanted her to leave. Rennie said no, so the police were called. Michael's mom wanted Rennie to be admitted to a psychiatric facility under the section of 5150, basically saying that you are a threat or harmful towards yourself or towards somebody else, that you need to be held up to 72 hours to have a psychiatric evaluation to see if you are going to harm yourself or others. The police had told Michael's parents that Rennie was a resident at that cottage. She had every right to be there, and if they felt unsafe, then they needed to leave and go back to their home and then go to get a restraining order against Rennie. However, Rennie's story of what happened in March was slightly different. She agreed that her and Michael had gotten into a fight and that his parents did come over. Except when she was in the kitchen, she was finishing cooking up soup for her children. And that Michael's mother indeed did tell her that she needed to get out. And that's when Rennie told Michael's mother that her son constantly is putting his hands on her, that he tried to kill her one time. This infuriated Michael. He grabbed Rennie, he slammed her against the wall, and that's when the police were called. Another time in March, Michael had recorded a conversation between Rennie and him. Rennie didn't have any knowledge of this conversation. And the conversation consisted of talk about suicide. And Rennie felt like Michael was constantly trying to convince her that she wanted to commit suicide. She just didn't know she wanted to, but she had all these feelings. The way she acted, the way she spoke about things were small indications that she truly wanted to commit suicide. And Rennie said this was an ongoing thing. He was constantly making her feel like she wanted to commit suicide. There was one time in their relationship where Rennie had found out some horrible news about her sister. Horrible. Rennie had made the irrational decision to grab a handful of trim spa pills and take them all at once. When Garcia, the father of Rennie's children, had found out about this, he had called up to check on her a few days later. This upset Michael. He said that he couldn't be with someone who was so irrational, who just made decisions all out of the blue like that, who could just do something like that on a whim. He just couldn't be with somebody who had such erratic behavior. By the end of March, Rennie was fed up. She was probably drained. I mean, the relationship is already a roller coaster and it's been like 5 months. My God. Rennie had packed her bags. She said, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. This is too much. And she moves in with a male friend. And she was only staying with this male friend until she could get herself an apartment. Well, she did. She had gotten herself an apartment and she had gotten the keys to her new apartment on April 9th. So she moves all of her stuff into her new apartment. Since she has moved out, she had not spoken to Michael. And it was great, except her birthday was that very next day. So Michael calls up Rennie and he's like, look, I want to take you out. It's your birthday. Let's go out to dinner. Rennie agrees. Oh my God. So that night they go out to dinner. They have a few drinks, have a great time, and then they go to the club where they partake in some drug usage. They get back into the car and head back to Michael's cottage. When they get in the car, Michael grabs Rennie by the back of the head and starts banging her head against the dashboard, accusing her of flirting with his friends while they were out, embarrassing him. She just sits in the car frightened as he speeds off back to the cottage. They go into the cottage and they go to bed. That next morning, on April 10th, Michael refused to let Rennie leave for work. He slammed her on the bed, jumped on top of her, and started choking her, telling her she was not going to leave. It wasn't until she finally had agreed to go to an Oakland baseball game with him later that evening that he finally let her leave. She left the cottage at 4 p.m. that day, went back to her apartment, truly did not want to go to this baseball game with him. But he shows up at her door, ready for the baseball game. So they go. They argue the entire game. Michael just didn't understand why Rennie moved out of the cottage. He's very upset and he just couldn't wrap his head around why she would want to leave. I'm not sure either, Michael. I'm not sure either. Michael left by himself after the baseball game, and Rennie got a ride from a stranger back to the cottage. She had locked her keys in her car. However, she had a spare set back at the cottage. So she gets a ride. They drop her off at the cottage. She calls Michael and lets her know, hey, I left some stuff in your trunk, some of my belongings. I need to get them out. I'm grabbing my spare set of keys at the cottage, and then I'm gone. After arguing with her, calling her a few choice of words, he hangs up the phone. He texts her, be there in 10. Michael was only a block and a half away at his buddy's house. She grabbed the gun and wanted to unload it. So she starts unloading the gun while Michael's on his way. Now remember, he's a block and a half away. So she's got about 10 minutes to unload this gun. And when she goes to unload it, she gets one of the bullets out. She goes to get the next bullet out, except the gun goes off. But Rennie didn't know that Michael was on the other side of the screen door, standing on the front porch when the gun went off. She dropped the gun, ran out to the front porch, grabbed Michael, screaming, "Oh my God, oh my God." The neighbors had phoned the police. The police arrived around 11:30 that night. Michael was dead upon arrival. He had been shot with a .45 caliber. They had taken Rennie into custody and started questioning her. It wasn't long after they started questioning her that they wanted to charge her with murder. During the trial, a firearm expert would come on to say that this specific handgun, that it was defective in the aspect of the slide lock pen. The slide lock pen on this specific gun, if the gun was held the wrong way, the lock pin could have slid, and what the lock pin does is that it allows the bullets to move up into the chamber. But because the lock pin slid out of the gun, the expended casing was stuck in the firing chamber. A bullet from the magazine could not move up into the firing chamber because that casing was still stuck in the firing chamber. In a normal functioning gun, it would have shot everything out and everything could come up and then go out the next time you pull the trigger. But regardless, the bullet couldn't come out unless you pulled the trigger. And for this specific gun, the trigger pull was 14 pounds. Usually, it's 8 to 10 pounds. Co-workers of Rennie did testify in court that her keys were indeed locked in her car, and she did have stuff in Michael's trunk that were her belongings. She ended up getting convicted of voluntary manslaughter. She's sentenced to 21 years in prison. I don't know. Did she mean to do it? Did she? I don't know. I don't know. You'll have to let me know what you think. But I do want to say that if you're in a relationship that is constantly throwing red flags at you, you don't need to stay in it. You don't need to keep collecting red flags. You just need one. This relationship was so toxic from the very beginning. And if you're in a relationship where there is any sort of abuse, it doesn't have to be physical. It can be emotional. It can be verbal. It is not okay. It is not okay, and there are plenty of resources out there that can help. You just have to go find them. They're everywhere. You just have to go find them. And then you just have to build up the courage to use them. But let me know what you think. If you think she truly meant to kill him on her birthday, or maybe it was a freak accident. Maybe she truly was scared that he was going to grab that gun and use it on her. I don't know. I don't know. You'll have to let me know what you think. But please remember, be safe. God, please be safe. It's a crazy world out there. And until next time, I will see you then.